Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We still have some seats in the front. If people want to come forward, there's some seats up here. So now everyone doesn't need to necessarily stand if you don't want to. Our next guest is a senator who's also had firsthand experience as a former U.S. Navy combat pilot and a former NASA astronaut. He serves on 5 Senate committees, including Armed Services and the Select Committee on Intelligence. Please welcome Arizona Democrat Mark Kelly.
Niala, how are you? Have some water.
Of course. Senator Kelly, thank you for being here, especially because Veterans Day was on Monday. I just wanted to acknowledge your military service and say thank you, especially as we remember the sacrifices that so many have made for our country, and of course, including you in that, so thank you. That said, I feel like we should start with the military and some of the news today. President-elect Trump's pick of Defense Secretary, Fox News host, and Army veteran Pete Hegseth. Do you think he's qualified to serve as Defense Secretary?
I hadn't heard of him until last night when my brother sent me a text at about 7 p.m. saying, "Have you heard of this guy?"
Okay.
And no, so I didn't know anything about him. I don't watch a lot of Fox News, especially not Saturday morning. Which I understand he spent about 8 or 9 years there. But we have a process to go through. We want qualified individuals. I think qualifications for this job include things like either creating policy or implementing policy in a big organization, government policy. DOD is a $800 billion a year enterprise with, well, I don't even know, like in excess of a couple million employees. It's a rather large effort to manage it, and we want qualified people.
Given those qualifications you've just listed, do you have a sense that he will be confirmed?
I don't like to speak about my Senate colleagues and try to predict what they're going to do, but we will have a rigorous process on the Armed Services Committee, probably starting around the 3rd or so of January, right after we get the new Senate seated. And we'll see where it goes.
So we were talking backstage about the pace of nominations that we have heard out
today.
Yes, and you were sharing with me that you got to watch TV during some of your briefings. So I just wanted to ask how you were sort of thinking through this flurry of nominations that we've heard.
I was just in a Senate Intelligence Committee hearing for about an hour and a half when the Tulsi Gabbard, the Matt Gaetz, Rubio was confirmed. He's the vice chairman of the committee. So we were sitting there together.
You were there with him?
Yeah, we were there with him when,
what was the reaction?
When the official announcement, very positive. And then the other 2, people are just kind of looking around the room.
What were the expressions like?
I usually don't want to go there, but.
Okay.
But. I don't know Matt Gaetz well. I've met him once. I don't think I've ever met Tulsi Gabbard. But these are serious jobs. We need serious people. One thing I'll say about Matt Gaetz is he does seem to show a fierce amount of loyalty to the president-elect. I don't think that's should be a qualification for the job of Attorney General. An Attorney General should be independent. It seems like the president-elect wants to go in a different direction.
The Wall Street Journal is reporting a draft of an executive order that would purge generals. What do you want this room to know about the professionalism of the U.S. military?
It's the most professional fighting force in the world by far. There's not a close second. Also in capability, but I would say I'd put professionalism, especially among the most senior ranks, admirals and generals. These are patriots who've worked very hard and are in these positions because they are competent. And they do, mostly, sometimes we have, minor, issues, but are incredibly competent people that, lead a very effective organization. I don't see us having a problem at this point. The issues that the former president has brought up are issues that I don't think are, really exist. And this idea of forming a group of people to purge the senior ranks is something unprecedented in our country's history. it's also up to us in the Senate. We confirm, anybody that's, well, basically all the officer ranks, but especially when you get up to 07 and above. And that's our role to make a decision whether this person, should be in this position. I think under certain circumstances, any commander-in-chief should have, and we've seen this throughout history, remove a specific individual from a job because, for some kind of cause, but not this blanket, test of some kind of, whether it's loyalty or on specific issues, is something we haven't seen before.
And you just mentioned with Matt Gaetz that perhaps President-elect Trump was maybe going in a direction of loyalty tests. Do you have concerns about that with the U.S. military?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, anybody who serves in the military has a loyalty to the Constitution, not to the president. And you swear an oath not to the president, but to uphold the Constitution. President swears that same oath, too. So I haven't seen much in the way of details on how this is supposed to work, but it is a really bad idea.
Let's talk about specifics, especially when it comes to space defense. We know that Russia is pursuing new and more advanced anti-satellite weapons systems that would violate the Outer Space Treaty. What should the U.S. be doing, first of all, just when we're thinking about ASAT weapon technology here?
Well, you saw some reports a couple months ago that were, released. It was classified material. Somebody made a decision to put some information out there about a new capability the Russians were attempting to develop. That's rather concerning. Russia should comply, with the treaties they signed. They don't seem to be interested in doing that anymore. That presents some national security challenges for us today and going forward. They're now a rogue nation who attacked one of our allies, who is routinely committing war crimes. They can't be trusted. And the proliferation of anti-satellite weapons in space by not only Russia but of China is of great concern of ours. The numbers are going up, and the capability, the type of systems that they've developed, and the innovation behind those systems is something that we've got to stay on top of.
And when you say stay on top of, what do you think the U.S. posture should be when it comes to developing its arsenal?
Well, we do that, right? We have our own plan that we put into place to make sure that space is a domain like others, whether it's, I'm a Navy guy, 25 years in the Navy. So I'm a little partial to the Navy. But whether it's the sea or under the sea, we want to be dominant. We want to be able to, control that space to our benefit. And these systems are something that we develop as well. We do it in accordance with treaties, Outer Space Treaty being one of them. We don't diverge outside of, certain, barriers that we have placed there, and we try to, stay within that, and our adversaries don't.
Our current Joint Chiefs Chair, General C.Q. Brown, has said has gone on record saying he's worried that the U.S. military is losing its muscle memory when it comes to electronic warfare. What's your assessment?
It's one of the more complicated, things that we, work on. It's
we have
really
2 minutes for you to. No,
2 minutes. It's like kind of hard to, wrap your head around this stuff. I used to fly an airplane called the A6 Intruder. I flew 39 combat missions over Iraq and Kuwait. On some of those missions, I carried an electronic warfare pod. You throw the switch on, you don't really know what it does. We've gotten a lot more sophisticated, and whoever wins the EW, the electronic spectrum domain in any fight, has a significant advantage. And these systems are changing rapidly, just like, we're in this time right now of rapid innovation in so many different areas, especially in defense technology. And the electronic warfare regime, we can see this in Ukraine. Drones have been kind of the new weapon of choice, and is taking out, Russian, troops and Russian equipment, probably more so than artillery is at this point. Is that going to continue? We're going to see if EW catches up with the ability to then defeat these, systems. But it is an area where we're focused on it. We're pretty good at it right now. And I'd say that's true for most of the defense tech sector, but we've got to make some changes here. Defense acquisition is a process that just takes too long, costs too much for these systems. I mean, look at Sentinel, replacing Minuteman is a system that's now taken longer to build and is over budget, and we're up against some legal issues with that. So we've got to in my view is we've got to maybe start over again with how we acquire systems, and don't get into this place. Like if you often have a company that comes with this innovative technology, they need some support, and then they go through with this valley of death area where we can't give them any money, we can't give them any help. Company dies even though they had a great idea that the warfighter can use. So we need a new strategy, and the acquisition process at DoD has been sort of like not great for a long time.
How would you like to see that change?
Well, when I went to grad school at the U.S. Naval Postgraduate School in 1991, so this is now almost 35 years, 33 years ago, I took a class on defense acquisition. And you would have thought my most complicated class was like control theory or partial differential equations at the time. I go into this defense acquisition class and I'm like, it's the most complicated thing I've ever seen. I mean, just everything that goes into acquiring and buying something. And it just takes way too long. And then I worked as a test pilot for a while in flight tests, but we're testing new systems, and see an airplane. The T-45 was a plane that I was supposed to fly in the training command. It wasn't fielded until I'd been in the Navy for over a decade. And it just, so how do we make these changes? I don't know. I think we've got to, we've got to put a lot of really smart people on it, get focused on it, and then try to make sure that you don't have these laborious reviews, this review cycle. And the amount of people involved. And we've started doing some of this. We've now gone to some, when you look at the NGAD, but the unmanned system that goes with it, the drone wingmen. We've reached out to some smaller companies now that have now won contracts to start developing those systems. Not the big giant defense contractor, but the smaller effective one.
Well, unfortunately, we're out of time.
I
wanted to ask you about UFOs, but we'll just leave it there. I know there was a big hearing on the House in the House this morning.
Was there another one?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Okay. Well, but you'd like more information, right?
I couldn't tell you.
All right. Well, unfortunately, our time is up. Yeah. Senator Kelly, thank you so much for joining me.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.